Delta species are some of the coolest Pokemon that the TCG has ever made. Changing a core expectation of a Pokemon's identity led to interesting and unique card designs that stood out from the rest. Many Pokemon received more than one type of Delta species during their run, like Rayquaza, which got 4 new types in addition to its regular colorless typing. The RSPK format spans the entire era that Delta species Pokemon were printed, with many of them defining the format. Today, I'm going to showcase you my favorite way to play Delta species in RSPK, Flygon EX. Flygon's strategy is to establish a board full of Stage 2 Flygon and Flygon EX to accelerate energies into play for either Flygon EX or a suite of tech attacking options, providing the flexibility to choose the perfect attack for the situation. In most cases, we aim to set up Flygon EX as our first attacker, to stick it active and rack up damage on the opponent's bench with the Sand Damage Pokebody. Flygon is an aggressive Stage 2 deck with a variety of unique attacking options, so without further introduction, let's get into the deck list. We play a full set of Trapinch. We plan to set up multiple different Flygon as both energy acceleration and as our main attacker, so we plan on utilizing all 4 copies. Big Bite can come in handy to strand the opponent's active if they open a poor starter, giving you more time to set up your board. We play 2 copies of Vibrava. Trainer Lock and de-evolving strategies aren't very prominent in the meta, so we can get away with using Rare Candy to get most of our Flygon into play. However, with the speed of the format, we can also afford to evolve through Vibrava, giving us an effective 6 outs to evolve. We play this version as it's the only Delta species Vibrava that doesn't have a colorless weakness. Unlike many lists, we play 3 copies of Delta Flygon. Our build leans heavier into the single prize options, so we will need to accelerate more over the span of the game. Because of this, we play a thicker line to ensure that we can find it quickly and potentially set up a second one. Flygon's Delta Supply Pokepower is the backbone of our strategy, allowing us to attach an extra Basic or Delta Rainbow energy to our Delta species Pokemon, helping us stream attackers and respond to knockouts more aggressively. We play 2 copies of our main attacker, Delta Flygon EX. Flygon has a gigantic 150 HP and no weakness, making it incredibly difficult to knock out in a single attack, allowing it to sit in the active turn after turn, racking up damage counters between turns on all of the opponent's benched basic Pokemon with the Sand Damage Pokebody. Flygon's Psychic Pulse attack complements its Pokebody, dealing 80 damage to the active and 10 to each of the opponent's damaged benched Pokemon. The chip damage can quickly turn Flygon's 80 damage into knockouts on basic EX Pokemon and one-shots on every Psychic weak Pokemon in the format, most notably Delta Gardevoir EX. Something that we notably choose not to play is Delta Sceptile EX. Its extra liquid Pokebody is great for shutting down EX Pokemon's Pokepowers, turning off both Gardevoir's Imprison and Electrode's extra Energy Bomb, which helps the Tyranitar matchup. With such an abysmal Tyranitar matchup though, I opted not to cram another Stage 2 line into the deck, as it not only puts more pressure on our rare candies, but also makes Flygon EX's attack cost 1 more, making it incredibly difficult to set up a second Flygon EX. Unfortunately for Flygon, Dark Tyranitar's Psychic Resistance turns Psychic Pulse into a 3-hit KO. For this reason, we do include a 1/1 line of Delta Exegutor. Exegutor's Delta Circle attack can 1-hit KO a Tyranitar, provided that we have at least 5 Delta Pokemon in play, which still leaves a 6th slot free for Pidgeot. Split Bomb can also come in handy to clean up damaged Pokemon that have been dealt damage from Flygon. Of the Exeggcute available, there's only 1 Delta Exeggcute, so we play that version to increase our potential draw from Castform's Delta Draw attack. We play 1 copy of Rayquaza EX to pick off damaged bench Pokemon with the Special Circuit attack, dealing 30 damage to any Pokemon, or 50 if that Pokemon has a power or body, allowing us to pressure support Pokemon. Rayquaza's attacks are reduced to only their lightning cost when behind on prizes, making it a great option when we don't have Flygon EX set up to keep pace in the mid-game. We play 1 copy of Delta Mew. Mew's copy attack allows us to use the attacks of whatever is in the active, provided we have the energies to pay. Between Delta Rainbow energies and Holon's Castform, we almost always have the resources to pull off an attack. In the early game, Mew can copy setup attacks like Jirachi's Make-A-Wish or Stantler's Push Away, while late game, it's best used to take knockouts on any fire-weak attackers. We also play the other Delta Mew, Mew Star. Everything about Delta Mew applies to Mew Star, except Mew Star allows us to copy any of our opponent's attacks in play, including the bench, giving us even more attacking options. Mew Star also covers another weakness, and has 10 more HP, letting it live an additional push away from Stantler. Into the support Pokemon, we play 2 copies of Delta Pidgey. Even though the corner Pidgey has 10 more HP and a better attack, Delta species Pidgey allows us to draw additional cards off Castform and Holon Adventurer. We play an unusual 3 copies of Quick Search Pidgeot, though a 3-copy list just got 4th place at the Holon Cup at EUIC, just to make a note of that. Many Pidgeot decks plan on playing a 204 line, but our 4th Pidgeot slot is filled by an additional Delta Flygon, to allow our energy acceleration to come online more efficiently. Pidgeot's Quick Search Pokepower is something that standard players should be familiar with, allowing you once per turn to search your deck for a card. Searching up an extra card every turn helps us establish our multiple Stage 2s in play. We play 1 copy of Delta Chimecho for its Delta Support Pokepower. We play a lot of Holon supporters, so Delta Support allows us to return a basic or Delta Rainbow energy from our discard pile to our hand to accelerate with Flygon's Delta Supply Pokepower. We play 1 copy of Holon's Magneton as a searchable energy off Holon Mentor that can be attached without already having an energy in play like Holon's Castform. We play this over Holon's Voltorb since we technically have the ability to attack with this if we're out of options. We play a full 4 copies of Holon's Castform. Unlike a lot of decks, Flygon doesn't actually mind starting Castform, as its Delta Draw attack is a great way to get into the early game to continuously fill your hand while setting up your board. However, Holon Castform's main purpose is to provide 2 Rainbow energy to pay for a wide variety of energy costs, providing you return an energy from your Pokemon to your hand, which Flygon's Delta Supply can reattach. Onto the trainers, we have a full 4 copies of Rocket's Admin. Admin is the best disruption in the format, and playing all 4 copies makes sure we have access to it when we need it. I've considered cutting down to 3 Admin for a POW hand extension, but often Flygon is ahead on prizes, making it more difficult to utilize. A Stevens might also be a good inclusion in place of a 4th Admin. We play 2 copies of Holon Mentor to search out our basic Pokemon, in addition to our energies that are Holon's Magneton and Castforms. Almost every basic Pokemon in our deck is searchable off of Mentor, with the exception of Rayquaza EX, sitting just out of range at 110 HP. We play 2 copies of Holon Adventurer as well. Many decks running the Holon engine opt for just 1 Adventurer, however, with our high concentration of Delta Species Pokemon, we run an additional copy as there are more cases where it'll allow us to draw a 4th card. We also play 1 Holon Scientist. It generally has less utility than Adventurer, being dependent on your opponent's hand size, but with the potential to draw significantly more cards than Adventurer, provided that you have a low enough hand size. We play 4 copies of Holon Transceiver. 4 Transceivers allow us to search your deck or discard pile for a Holon supporter, either Holon Mentor, Scientist, or Adventurer, effectively giving you access to a maximum of 5 Scientists and 6 Adventurers or Mentors. Since we plan on setting up a substantial amount of Stage 2 Pokemon, we play 4 Rare Candy. Rare Candy is our only way to get Pidgeot into play, and we also only play 2 Vibrava, so candies are an important resource for us to find during the game. We play a full 4 copies of Windstorm. Windstorms allows us to discard the pesky Cessation Crystal, which completely shuts down our consistency, acceleration, and damage accumulating powers and bodies. In addition to Cess, Windstorm can also answer stadiums that are problematic for Flygon, such as Crystal Beach shutting down Holon's Castform, Curse Stone racking up damage on our power-heavy strategy, and Giant Stump limiting our board when we intend on going wide. We play 2 copies of Warp Point. Since it's usually only correct to put 1 Cessation Crystal in play, Warp Point can also allow you to turn your abilities back on by pushing it out of the active spot. Warp Point is also good to recover from special conditions, usually confusion inflicted by Stantler. We play 1 copy of Swoop Teleport. Swoop allows you to exchange one of your Pokemon in play with one in your deck, discarding the replaced Pokemon. Swoop's primary purpose is to replace a Holon's Castform or Magneton that has been started. Rounding out our trainer cards, we play 1 copy of Pokémon Retriever. Retriever lets you recover any of your Pokemon, either 1 into your hand or 3 shuffled back into your deck. We play plenty of attackers, but it can sometimes be useful to recover a Delta Mew or Castform for energy. Speaking of energy, we play 4 Delta Rainbow Energy. These provide any type of energy when attached to Delta Species Pokemon, allowing us to pay for the variety of energy costs that are in the deck. Delta Rainbow Energies, in addition to Castforms, basically let you pay for any attack cost, making Delta Mews a great inclusion with no limit to the attacks that they can use. We play 1 Metal Energy. Metal Energy is played to reduce the spread damage from accumulating on Delta Flygon, as Metal Energy's 10 damage reduction still applies when Flygon's on the bench. The Metal Energy can also let squishier Pokemon like Chimecho live more turns of Spinning Tail, only doing 10 damage per spread instead of 20. Finally, we play 3 Psychic Energies. We play an additional amount of Psychic Energies to ensure that we can pay for Flygon EX's double Psychic attack cost and hit our attachments for turn to make sure we stay on track for the earliest Psychic Pulse we can pull off. I choose E-Reader Energies because they're the coolest looking ones the game has ever made. So that's it for my deck today. I know that there are a variety of Flygon variants out there, so let me know how you prefer to play it, and which suboptimal psychic energies you play if you can't handle how handsome the e-reader ones are. If you'd like to watch some games of Flygon, I've got 2 videos up on screen now. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Holon Scientist. Until next time.